In a nutshell, your new book, what is it about?
My book basically argues that we live in a profoundly undemocratic age. The idea that we all have equal participation and a right to equal participation in our society, I think, has been undermined in a lot of different ways. It's been undermined from the paternalism that we see in the nanny state. It's been undermined by the increasing removal of accountability of a lot of government agencies. I think anti-consumerist thought is profoundly undemocratic in a lot of ways as well. When it comes down to it, in a democracy, there is an assumption that we all have the capacity to participate, the capacity to choose what we do with our own lives, whether that's in the commercial or in the political sphere, and I think that we've moved a long way away from that. Democracy is the political version of individual liberty. If we have the right to decide in a free country what we eat, what we drink, how we arrange our lives, what we do with our money, then I think we have an equal right to help decide the political, the way our governments are managed politically as well. There is no alternative political system that gives us an equal stake in the political decisions that govern our choices.
So your argument in a nutshell is that Western democracies are not democratic enough?
I don't think that Western democracies have given us the sort of autonomy over our own decisions that we ought to get in a democratic system. I think that democratically made decisions can be fundamentally undemocratic when they undermine the basic ethic behind democracy, which is that we all have an equal right to make decisions about our own lives.
Can you give us a few examples of undemocratic institutions that you think should no longer exist in mature democracies?
Over the last couple of decades, we've been separating a lot of regulatory agencies in particular from the basic democratic accountability mechanisms that we expect. So we've said to, say, prudential regulators that they are separate from parliamentary accountability. We've said to competition regulators that they are separate. We've even said to taxation authorities that they can make policy without having to refer back to Parliament. I think this is profoundly undemocratic, and I'm deeply concerned about the fetishization of expertise and the fetishization of independence that we seem to be growing. I think a lot of people get confused about the benefits of an independent central bank. Ideally, you want agencies to be run by rules. It's not the independence that matters, it's their rule authority that is important there. I think that decisions like who sets the cash rate should be set by Parliament. They should be managed according to very, very strict and tight rules. But I don't think it's the independence of the central bank that is important there. It's the fact that they're governed by rules, democratically set rules.
As an Australian observing New Zealand from afar, New Zealand has become a bit of a topic du jour for Australian political circles. What's your take on us?
New Zealand has gotten a lot of things right. I think we look at New Zealand and we see a government that seems to be managing its financial affairs very well. It hasn't gone down many of the nanny state paths that Australian governments have as well. You've avoided many of the deep paternalistic policies that Australian governments have been enamoured by for a long time. I think there's much to admire in New Zealand from our perspective, and from an outsider I understand that most of the time you're very critical of your own country, and we're always very critical of Australia, but New Zealand seems to have gotten a lot of things right in a way that Australia hasn't.